so much. What an honor to be here. My name is Pam Groppe, formerly Ramsey. I am the mother of today's speaker, Alex Ramsey. This young man has certainly given me a ride of a lifetime as a spectator, of which his speaking here is a distinct honor. And so I thank those here who have made it possible. I've heard of this, I've lived in Stark County most of my life and remember hearing about the Pro Football Hall of Fame Luncheon series, even as a child. I believe perhaps it was broadcast on WHBC, which was always playing in the home during the day, and then also the write-ups in the repository. So it was always the Pro Football Hall of Fame being in the background of all of our lives as we were growing up, and certainly during Alex's time here in Stark County. I just want to say that with that being said, the Pro Football Hall of Fame has just been in the background and has been enabled us to benefit from its strength being in our community. There's no other community, not too many communities can boast what we do here and what we have here. I believe that it's elevated the level of sports in all realms in Stark County, from football, even youth. Because I want to say Alex got his start as young as third grade through the Greentown Athletic Club in the North Canton system, and up through the ranks to the high school level. And he did, and being a boy that had so much energy, it was up to me to keep his energy going in a positive direction. And the sports in this community certainly gave us that, and of which I'm very thankful. He did participate in football, wrestling, and track and field. And by middle school years, I think we were seeing the kind of talent he had. It was just my job just to keep him going, keep him involved. Let's keep going in that direction. And the level of competition, like I say, was so amazing that that those who had the chance to participate in athleticism, it was at a level where I don't know if we had lived outside of this community, if we would have been challenged at the same level. So Alex did become All-Ohio in all three sports that I mentioned, and he did receive scholarship offers in all three. Oh, thank you. They did seem like they were a little high.
I'm tall.
Right. So you know, that's just really given us so much opportunity. Alex was given MVP, the Stark County MVP award, as a culmination of his senior year, which was a very high honor and just so unexpected. But he was totally deserving of so many fine athletes. I just thank God for all of that, for just leading us and guiding us and keeping us here in the community. Alex went on to University of Cincinnati. I see a few people repping the UC on their shirts and hats today. Alex attended there. He ended up choosing track and field and was coached under Bill Schneer. He received his bachelor's in business and a minor in marketing. And but he wasn't done with his challenge. He was challenged to do more. he went on to try his first marathon. So that was graduating from his 800-meter specialty to a 26.3. And his first marathon was the Flying Pig in Cincinnati. But that wasn't enough. He went on to qualify for the Boston Marathon in 2013. And then that wasn't enough. He went on to try, let's see what happens at the 100 ultra distance marathon length, of which he participated in the iconic Leadville marathon. And then onward, he did Badwater in the desert of California in the middle of the summer and completed that one. And if that weren't enough, let's see what it looks like to run across the United States, which he completed that distance in 2015. And then he went on to international competition in ultramarathoning at the Spartathlon in Greece and just 3 years ago. And then this past fall, did 3,100 miles in Jamaica, Queens, New York City. He did the distance in 51 days. And I'm sure he will tell you all more about that. But I need to get off of the podium and let my son speak now. So thank you once again for having us. It's a great pleasure and it's a great blessing. Thank you so much. My son Alex.
Okay, good. Yep, good.
All right, thank you, Mom. Wow, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to be on this stage. Thank you, RJ. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. Wow, I learned a little bit about this Hall of Fame luncheon that has been going on since 1963. Do we have any show of hands? How many people have been here since 1963? Fantastic. And I say that because it truly was touched on by my mom. The precedence of the tradition of sports in Stark County has been such a privilege and an honor to be a part of. I will have to be honest, as a young athlete of age 9, watching Jerry Rice and Barry Sanders, at these podiums, I thought I'd be up here wearing a golden jacket, right? But being 5'7" and 143 pounds, God works in mysterious ways.
Yes.
But with that said, I'm very grateful that this message is coming through today. It's been a wild ride. It's been an amazing journey. And my hope is that this path of endurance continues onward past today. And this is just a positive opportunity for us all to become inspired. I got my start as an athlete at a very young age. My mom, as she made mention, put me in sports right around the age of 9. I want to give a lot of kudos to my mom. She was a single parent mom running her own home-based business. She was doing the laundry, she was doing she was making the meals, and she was having to discipline a very high energy, probably ADHD boy. With that said, she placed me in sports in the North Canton Youth Wrestling Program. That was the first time I ever had the experience of sport in my life. I think the first time we watched the Browns game probably was when I was in 2nd grade. So I wasn't raised in a traditional sports family. So when Mom put me into sports, it was very much a way to kind of tame my energy and my enthusiasm. With that said, it was the first time that the structure and the pageantry of sport and all the things that come along with discipline were really introduced into my life. I had so many positive male models in that program initially that really kind of set the tone for my life going forward. One of those great coaches that I can remember is Bob Thorne. Bob Thorne's no longer with us, but he really, really believed in me as young as a 9-year-old. And to have people in our North Canton community that really believe in athletes at that age, it's just a special special gift. I started getting into training a lot. As a third grader, I started becoming really kind of obsessive about working out. I think my buddy's dad showed me Rocky IV right around that era. And anybody remember that scene where Rocky Balboa is like training in the barn and Ivan Drago's getting, like scienced up? That particular scene lit a fire within me. It was as if it was kind of like a consciousness kind of opened up, an inner drive, and kind of acknowledging that inner drive in my spirit. How far could it be pushed? How far could it be refined? What type of performance could it actually manifest? And I remember that it got to kind of like a crescendo as I was like heading into middle school. As a sixth grader, I remember we didn't have a YMCA membership at the time, but I remember my drive to like work out was like so strong that I would run the 2 miles to the YMCA. I'd watch an adult kind of go in and click their card, and right behind them, I would kind of just try to get really, really small, or get down on my hands and knees, and I would sneak in. And when I was in the YMCA, I would see Judd Logan, and I would see Dave Graysinger, and I would see these guys that were just getting after it and truly working out at a next level. And I saw that as inspiration. Like, how could I be like them? How can I do this? How can I kind of emulate? And I was watching them very, very closely. I was very full of attention. I do want to say, though, I have been carrying the guilt of my unpaid debt to the YMCA. So, is anyone here on behalf of the YMCA? I got some debts to settle with you. I'm sure you all saw a sixth grader in there like every day, kind of working out. So, but that said, things progressed to high school, and was very fortunate to be on the football program there under the tutelage of Coach Logan, Coach Hurtler, and having that special experience of just going through that football program and the tradition that we intercepted as young athletes, it was not lost upon us. The asking of us to be more than ourselves, not only on the field, but in the classroom and in the community. This really resonated with me, resonated with my teammates, and I remember fondly an amazing book of quotes that Coach Logan would put together and would have us read before two-a-days. Vince Lombardi, Woody Hayes, and all the great coaches, and just really ask us to internalize this message and bring that into sport. Wow. For me personally, that really continued to strike a fire within myself. Was also very fortunate to be on the wrestling program that had a strong tradition. Was fortunate to meet right before his passing Coach Talarczyk as well, that was able to give me a bit of the tradition of North Canton wrestling. And during my time there, it was very special because, I think in those moments when you're in that wrestling room and you have another athlete against you and you're working on your technique and you're having to lose weight and all these things, really kind of honed in a special aspect of mental toughness and mental preparation that would go into competition. I was able to kind of translate that as well to the track, where I found out, well, it's probably what's coming most naturally. My mama probably noticed that I was getting out to run either to practice or to the YMCA, whatever it may be, but running in itself found a very natural place in my life. I was very fortunate to have some amazing coaches at North Canton, namely the late great Coach Clay, and then also Travis Ackerman, that really believed in me and really encouraged me to consider running past high school. Namely, Coach Clay sat me down as a sophomore, and this was, don't tell Coach Hurtler this, but I was almost considering quitting football in order to pursue cross country because Coach Clay really just believed in me that much. And it was that he believed in me so much that I was inspired to perform to a high level. And I really just want to give major gratitude and thanks to the North Canton community that really just created a belief in myself for things that would set the stage for things later in my life. So thank you very much. Outside of high school, I was receiving some initial interest from football. Like I may mention, 5'7" and 145, so I wasn't getting any big offers or anything like that. Wrestling as well, I didn't know if I wanted to be a skinny guy on campus, like having to cut weight or whatnot. So naturally, track and field was something that I was really pursuing, and I received a track and field scholarship to the University of Cincinnati, where I specialized in 800 meters. And man, my time there was just so blessed. It was the first time that I had been living away from home. A 4-hour drive, still, far enough to get back, but still have my own kind of autonomy as a young person. But also to be a smaller fish in a bigger pond. Now we were running against University of Tennessee, Villanova, University of Connecticut, Notre Dame, these big and historical programs. Now competition on that level was a whole different type of getting ready, getting prepared. But my time there was so sweet and so special. And I truly look back on it with no regrets. However, after 4 years, the team, college, it's over, I've graduated. And I'm kind of at a crossroads because I fell into a bit of post-graduation blues. You're riding the high of the team, you're riding the high of your academics, and you're about to get into the real world. But for me personally, I felt that God had placed in my heart kind of the desire to continue training because, and one aspect of myself, it is the most realist thing that I've known. And I prayed to God, and I really asked. I said, oh, God, please just in any way possible, just continue to have running persist in my life. I don't care what it is. It's just I just hope that it continues. And God works in mysterious ways. And He actually placed on my path a book called Born to Run. And Born to Run changed my life. I don't know if you've ever read a book that has really just redefined the way that you look at specific things. That book did that for me. And it did that by introducing 2 radical ideas. Number 1, barefoot running. Number 2, ultramarathon running. Now, mind you, at this point, I was completely your prototypical track and field athlete, right? Never would consider taking off my shoes for anything, and anything over 5 miles is coach. What? Come on, are we in trouble here? So I just want to lay that as the groundwork, as this was not something that, I had always kind of considered. But this book, and me feeling that it was kind of tied to this initial prayer, I really dived into it. I dived into it full-heartedly. The first thing that really inspired me to do was to take off my shoes and consider running without the protection of modern technology like your Nike or your Reebok or your Adidas. And the one thing that it really introduced me right off the bat was, so much of my life I've been considering splits, I've been considering speed, I've been considering competition. But I don't know how many of us take our shoes off and maybe walk out to the mailbox each morning. Well, man, your feet are really sensitive, right? So why I articulate this is because I had to slow down dramatically. And in the process of slowing down, there was a state of patience that was cultivated. There was also the presence of mindfulness. When you're out there running barefoot or without shoes on, you're really scanning the ground. There's not really any liberty to kind of go off and go on a tangent daydream. You have to be very tuned in. So what I found is that it really, really resonated and brought me much joy to kind of experience running in this new way. As kind of overly zealous 20-year-old, I thought I had running conquered. I thought I had already understood there was to learn about it. So that lesson of barefoot running really changed my paradigm. I loved it so much that I wanted to participate in a marathon, right? A guy that only is doing 5 miles that goes barefoot, of course the next progression is marathon running. But for me personally, it did feel like the logical next step. I'm going to kind of date myself, because back in 2010, when YouTube first hit the scene, I thought it was going to be a really great opportunity to create a platform that would document my first journey running my first barefoot marathon and just share it with social media. Facebook was really popular at that time. So I decided, okay, I gotta be held accountable. I have to share this message, and if I'm not working out or if I'm not if I'm not showing up every day, I want people to, more or less call me out. But I also felt like it was going to be a vehicle for inspiration. And all I can say is that inspiration felt like it was coming from my heart. Logically, it didn't really make sense. Like, I was out running in downtown Cincinnati. Everybody and their brother was asking me and calling me the most funniest names as you can imagine. And for me to have to kind of go through that process and just surrender to the actual running and not get tied up into the opinions or the perspective of others, but to kind of transmute it into inspiration via this platform was what I was feeling led to do, right? So through that process, I was able to finish this marathon. And at that time, I started considering, wow, what's next? Is there something else? In my heart, I heard ultramarathon. Do we have any ultramarathoners in the room? Raise your hand. Be honest. Don't be shy now. Okay, so a marathon is 26.2 miles. By definition, an ultramarathon is any distance over 26.2 miles, okay? So my foray into the ultramarathon distance would mean that I would have to complete a distance longer than the Flying Pig Marathon that I had just run in Cincinnati. This was newness to me, but I felt that this connection and this relationship between my prayer that I asked for running to be in my life, the book that showed itself, revealed itself, that gave me positive feedback and inspiration to barefoot running would also be the next connecting step to keep this message alive. I poured myself fully into it. There's various differences, various formats and different types of races that ultramarathons come in. There's 24-hour races around 400-meter loops where you essentially just get on the track and run as many miles as you can in a day. Was fortunate to have an experience on a 400-meter trek where I was able to cover 129 miles. In those moments, you're faced with the monotony, you're faced with the mind. You're faced with the aches and the pains of the body. And something special that happened and cultivated here in Stark County as a young boy in these sports programs got built to light. All those little inspirations and all those key moments with coaches and all those practices and all those victories across teammates and teams, they all come to the surface for inspiration, to find and transcend for one more step. I was hooked. Started running other tough ultramarathons, considered to be some of the world's gruelingest, probably because my brain was like, okay, what's next again? Mom touched on the Badwater Ultramarathon, which is a 135-mile race across Death Valley, where I think the summit of the temperature that year was about 120 degrees. And, just thinking in those moments how to prepare. You got to prepare for the heat. How are you going to prepare for the heat? You have to prepare your mind, you have to prepare your body. And in those moments, you gain something through putting yourself through the depths of suffering. I think about those that suffer and those that are able to transmute suffer into joy. And those are my greatest inspirations, because for those that are able to do it, whether they are runners or not, these are the true heroes of my life. So if I can at least partake in a day of heroicism, then my hope is that goodness will kind of manifest and be pulled forward later in life. There's other races, like running across Chicago to New York City and having the opportunity to be on foot crossing Ohio. Man, I thought everything was like Cleveland and Akron and Canton, and then I saw an Amish buggy pull up alongside me, and I realized there's a lot of farmland in Ohio. But the joy of the journey of ultramarathon also led me to a transcontinental foot race. Has anyone seen Forrest Gump here? Okay, now we got some. So there's a scene in Forrest Gump, right, where he's running across country. And I think that scene probably was emblazed in my mind at a very young age. And, the opportunity to participate in a transcontinental foot race came into my life's path in 2015. And, we started in Huntington Beach, California, and we were tasked to run across the southern portion of the United States, across Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, the Deep South, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, right? Wow, okay, sounds great. And it truly is, because there's one thing to hear and talk about how amazing this country is, but it's also one thing to experience it from all facets in different communities across the United States. Not only just being in the communities and receiving like the well wishes of those that supported the race, and like the Delta of Mississippi, people that probably are pinching 2 pennies together, or like these, just whatever it may be, but also just seeing the geography of the land change from the Pacific Ocean building up to the southern Rocky Mountains as you go through the Arizona, and then the flatness of West Texas, and then into the Delta, the Bayou area, and then up along the coast, and eventually to your state's capital. Very fortunate to have that experience, twofold, because it also introduced me to the answer to my question. What was next? That question was asked to Newton Baker, who I was running this race with across the country. When I said, whoa, Newton, okay, well, what's the longest race in the world? And he said, oh, that one's easy. It's the Sri Chinmoy Self-Transcendence 3,100-mile race. I said, the Sri what? I had no idea. It blew my mind when I heard about it. But Newton's way of articulating what this race represented, that it was a half-mile block in Jamaica, Queens, that participants had 18 hours from 6 a.m. to midnight to run as many loops as they could in a busy city block in New York City. It penetrated past my mind. I couldn't fully understand it. And for many years after the conclusion of the Transcon, this idea sat with me. And it continued to find its way into my dreams and my visions. Not only now was it something that I was thinking about all the time, but it was something that I was actively working towards in my training. I want to introduce Sri Chinmoy at this moment, as the name of this event was actually created on his behalf. Sri Chinmoy was a meditation teacher that in 1960 immigrated from India to the United States. He was a meditation teacher that amassed a following of students that wanted to learn how to meditate. And through the philosophy of self-transcendence, he promised his pupils that they would achieve peace, inner stillness, and drive and determination, enthusiasm and joy. The bare bones of this event are exactly what you see on paper. 3,100 miles, around a half-mile block, in a crowded downtown New York City scenario. I'm thinking to myself, this sounds horrible. Right? I'm being on the sidewalk for 18 hours a day, having to navigate through a city block in downtown New York City, having to take 2 weeks off of work, not getting paid, like, okay. But God was speaking to my heart very, very strongly that this was the next step. And what I really wanted to kind of tap into was this concept of self-transcendence that Sri Chinmoy named this event after. As I mentioned earlier, all these different ultramarathons have their different niches in which you have to prepare for it, whether it's the heat, the elevation, the altitude, whatever it may be. But this one was coined self-transcendence. What is self-transcendence? I had to really, really study that for myself. And really, it was kind of the awakening of everything that's been encompassed in my athletic journey up to that point, was that any time that the mind comes to the forefront and imposes a limitation, any type of debilitating thought that says, well, it's too cold to go out to run today, or my legs are sore, and I don't want to do that extra mile, or my mind is too active, I don't want to sit down and have a quiet moment of prayer. All these moments are disallowing us from moving into probably some sort of growth, whether it's personal growth, whether it's spiritual, whatever it may be, but a growth opportunity. Mostly the mind is going to be the culprit to kind of limit us. So Sri Chinmoy baked this concept into this opportunity to run 3,100 miles to be confronted by the sounds, the smells, the hardness of the pavement, and the city, and hopefully transcend yourself. Whew, it was a lot. I had worked to qualify for this event over a 10-year period. The qualification period was that you have to cover 600 miles in a 10-day race. I first gave it a go in 2018. I came up short. I think that day I probably came around 590 miles. I was really banged up, had a lot of blisters, but I remember having these moments in the race that were, oh man, they surpassed even like my wildest dream for competition, because it placed me in such a special place within myself, like a deepness and richness of flow state that I had really been so familiar with ever since I had gotten into training as an athlete. But I fell short, okay? But I didn't give up, because that persistence in my heart stayed with me. Last year, well, I guess now 2 years ago in 2024, I gave it a go again. And wow, everything clicked. I was able to hit the qualifying mileage, which was 1,000K. So for us in America, that's 620 miles. And was able to receive an invitation to the Self-Transcendence 3,100-mile race. Okay, so now it was time, right? All the preparation, everything that I shared up to this moment has really put me now in a state of deep gratitude for what this opportunity would entail. I remember the sights and the sounds of that first day. It's 5 a.m., it's 5:30, and there's a whole bunch of people around, but not as many as you would probably think. Having the moniker of like the world's longest race, you would think that like thousands of people would be there. But mind you, this is a block in New York City, and there was probably about 40 people there. And there was no TV cameras, there was no corporate sponsorship. And really, what I came to understand then, as I was in my training, was that this wasn't for ego competition. This was for spiritual development and spiritual growth. That this was very similar to those that follow Sri Chinmoy, to go on a pilgrimage or a retreat of some sorts. So in that way, I found out very much so that the state that this one was going to demand was very inward. And as that first day went off, that first gun went off after we took a moment of meditation at the start, in which we did every day. The feeling and the excitement and the euphoria of everything culminating, it hit me. And I think that first day went by in a blink of an eye. 60 miles, very fortunate that 60 miles went in a blink of an eye. Usually it's not like that. I remember waking up that second day and returning back at 6 a.m. And maybe I'll take a segue there. So I was actually stationed about a half-mile block away. And I would ride a bike from the course there to the race each morning, and I'd ride it back from my place to get to the start each morning. So I'm riding my bike over, it's like 5:30 a.m., and I'm wiping the sleep over my eyes, the sleep out of my eyes, and I'm really feeling my legs. I'm like biking up a hill, I'm like, this is crazy. Okay, my warm-up before the actual run starts. But as I'm actually getting into that second day, the most profound thought hits me, and it hits me like a tsunami. And it's on the backside of the loop, which is Grand Central Parkway. I'm trying to relate what type of highway would be kind of similar to this in Stark County, but I'm failing to have an example. But this is a stereotypical New York City street. We have cars going 45, 50 miles an hour. We have that New Yorker screaming out the window. We have the horns honking, and we just have people just cutting lanes, right? Pure noise. And I'm hearing every second of it, and it's kind of throwing me off of my equilibrium. We're all here to have this meditative moment, right? But it's so loud and it's so cumbersome to kind of move through in this kind of direction when you're hearing these sounds. And that thought that comes and hits me right in the forehead is 50 more days of this. Alex, what are you doing here? What are you doing, man? Oh, That is the true challenge of the Self-Transcendence 3100-mile race. It was the moments of the mind. Physically, you have to maintain an 18-minute mile. Now, in my middle age, being 40 years old, that's a walking pace. And if I can continue walking throughout the whole day, then I can maintain it. But those moments when I slowed down were when my mind would start second guessing itself. Whether, hey, it's my legs are getting tired, or, I'm not having any fun. Let me just go and take a rest. Or those were those moments where I was very fortunate to kind of go into my heart, which is encouraged through Sri Chinmoy and my spiritual belief, to go into the heart, to find joy there. In those moments, miles would start coming through. And it was really amazing to find that by like day 3, when you're feeling really lethargic and you can't really imagine how you could kind of continue going forward, that you find new strength. But the new strength wasn't in me, it felt like, which was kind of bizarre, because once the mind gets quiet and the body gets to a certain fatigue moment, there is a special aspect of consciousness that I experienced that came through me that I can only relate to, like God working through the physical form. I can only articulate it in that way because it was not me that was actually doing that movement. I was becoming amazed that this energy was coming through my person, trust me, because I had no idea how it was happening. And in those moments when it was like actually going on, all I could do was just pray and just give great gratitude that had been asked of me over a 10-year journey to prepare for this race was accumulating in this moment. I was very, very, very patient in those moments too, because those great highs were also accentuated by, great lows. I can think of one time when Mom visited me in New York City, where I had tried to test myself maybe day 14 or so with a little bit of speed. And, my body had been kind of used to a specific pace, and I had tried to speed up just a little bit, right? My mind was like, all right, let's see how fast I can go today. Bad idea. The reason being is that I woke up that next day and my calves were so swollen, so bad, to the point where I wasn't even able to run. And when you have to hit a daily mileage of 60 miles a day, and it feels like you can barely muster up one lap, you better believe your body's talking to you and your mind's talking to you. But it was so funny. This is a holistic community, the Sri Chinmoy Marathon team, and they don't keep many pharmaceutical drugs on handy. I could say, hey, could you give me an ibuprofen for the pain? No, they actually gave me a piece of cabbage. Does anybody know that cabbage has healing properties that are anti-inflammatory? All right. Yes. They gave me 2 pieces of cabbage, and we taped them on the back of my calves. And through the process of walking for 18 hours, and looking down at the cabbage and saying, this isn't going to work. What am I? And smelling the cabbage, baking in the heat. I just need some sauerkraut or something. It started working though. I started feeling the rejuvenated feeling of this cabbage, giving me the ability to walk, to run again. No longer was I walking, now I was running. And now it was new inspiration and new reasons to be excited. I think too of the international field of athletes that were participating in this event. I was the only runner from the United States to participate in last year's race. Other runners were from Slovakia, were from China, were from Romania, were from Italy, were from Russia, and New Zealand. And one of the special athletes that I had an opportunity to really develop a relationship was the great Vasu Duzi, who has run the 3,100-mile race 13 times and has won the race 4 times, who is the young age of 59 years old. And Vasu was very influential in my ability to kind of continue to transmute and transcend the idea of mileage and the idea of the course and the concrete into something far deeper. See, he is a follower of Sri Chinmoy, and every day he would recite aphorisms that were essentially inspirations asking for blessings and motivation. And he would go through these with me, and as we're kind of circling the block, you notice after repetition, after a mile or two, you start memorizing it. Vasu was very quick to say, don't just say it, feel it. Feel the message coming forth. Well, this reminds me of my locker room in football where Coach Logan was passing us the book and we're reading Vince Lombardi. Wow, there's something has to be tied to this. And something was tied to this because those prayers, those aphorisms started coming alive. It's hard to articulate exactly what that was like, but it did match the alignment of that energy that would come through me that would allow me to continue to run when I felt tired and exhausted. One of the cool aspects too of the race is that you could receive daily messages from people from around the world that if they got on the website, they could write you a message and it would be hand delivered to you each and every day. And I tie this back because this race was something far greater than myself. One day I received a huge manila folder postmarked a elementary school in Virginia. I undid the manila folder and I pulled out the first message, and it was written by the principal there at the school, and it said, "Dear Alex, we've been watching your journey and we're so proud of you, and here are all of our students in the school want to write you inspiration to keep going." And I remember just bawling my eyes out as I'm reading these messages from these fourth graders and these sixth graders that are telling me that they're feeling inspired to go run. And in those moments, I'm realizing that this race and the act of transcendence in and of itself can create inspiration and touch lives outside of just what I'm personally doing. That it's me maybe as the vehicle for doing the running, but as God's energy and God's wish to have it manifest in different ways. And how special that was to have that gift to touch those kids in that special way. I think back too as to the ending of the race and what that was like for me. That 10-year journey to get to the race, and finally now you only have a handful of laps left. And my buddy from Slovakia actually gave me a recording of Sri Chinmoy singing America the Beautiful. And he said, "Alex, I want you to put this in, please, just turn it in." And I want to just make mention too that there's Thomas A. Edison School is right there on the course as well, and the flag is being flown. And I'm placing in my headphones and I'm taking those last 5 laps and I'm listening to America the Beautiful. And I'm truly just feeling the energy of everything kind of like moving to this moment. And being an athlete that has placed many hours and times and to be able to spectate this and just to feel so lucky to have had these opportunities. That last lap is just pure magic. They put an American flag, huge American flag in your hand and another flag for the Sri Chinmoy organization, and you run that half block. And as I'm holding these flags, I'm feeling a deep sense of pageantry and appreciation and remembrance for Stark County, for college, for Cincinnati, for my family, for my friends, for the students, for my fellow racers, for Sri Chinmoy, for the Sri Chinmoy Marathon team, and I'm just feeling so blessed. And when I see the finish line and it's held by my friends, my fiance, my sister, and I hit that finish line, wow. The actual finish of the race is on YouTube if you search it out. Now I don't know if I can articulate it because I was actually crying and laughing and crying and laughing and crying and laughing at the same time. So it's hard to really say exactly what was happening, but through my observation, through my eyes, it was one of the most beautiful scenes that I could ever imagine. I sat down and they started singing songs, which is kind of the ceremonial thing that each finisher receives. And I just felt in that moment just a deep connection to my spirit, to God, to all the things that have placed me in this moment. And it's kind of encouraged me now to ask again, what's next? But as of right now, I am fully content in the opportunity to share this message, to have lived this experience through running, through football, through wrestling, and to be so grateful for those of you in the crowd that have just connection points to athletes at different schools in Stark County. And maybe it's a family member, a grandson or a grandchild, or maybe it's that person that's currently getting the state title. You know, I was one of those kids at one time. And at one time, somebody in this room said something to me that continued me along that path. You know, I think of the Greentown Athletic Club that really got me my start as a young person. And I remember those people really just saying, you have the potential to do something special. So I just want to leave you today just to remember that you have a special message that you can give to a young person that can really change and alter the course of their life. I feel like it's now my duty as someone that's graduated and now of age to, you know, maybe talk to a young athlete, to do the same that was given to me. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of that opportunity, and I appreciate this honor to be up here today.
Any questions?
The Flying Pig first marathon you ran, was that the only event you ran barefoot?
Actually, that was my first marathon barefoot, but I had actually run several other marathons barefoot as well. Ultra marathons, no. Yeah, that's my buddy actually runs those barefoot, and I am shaking my head. I'm like, how do you do it? How in the world do you do it?
Did you finally get a sponsor when you started wearing shoes?
Actually, I have had a sponsor very loosely in my life. Luna sandal, like a Huarache sandal. It's kind of, I think of it as like the Spartan or the Jesus sandal. That's the kind of design. But you know, maybe it's my personality. I don't really feel always too comfortable to put myself out to sponsorships, as it's like if I have the tools that I have available, you know, I might as well like support myself. It may not be the best perspective, but traditionally that's the way that I've gone about it.
One in the back here.
Alex, I just had a quick question. First of all, in all my years of membership, I think your speech was the most unique one that you have taken us on a 10-year journey with you, and that was awesome. Thank you so much. My question is, in all these races, especially your last one, did you ever get injured or cut that you would have to take some time out and heal?
Oh, that's a great question. I appreciate the question. It's a good one. Yeah. Have I ever been injured during a race, and have I ever had to pull out or drop out? And I have been so incredibly blessed that I have not been seriously injured. Now, I have had instances where I've had to slow down and stop, especially during the 3,100 mile race. Blisters are a big deal. I don't want to get too graphic because they're just 8, but it does include a pin and a pop. And if you can endure the little acute pain that it lasts for about 20 seconds, you put a little powder back on and you get back out there and you keep going. But very fortunate not to sustain any type of like ACL, knee, back. It's been a blessing.
Thank you for coming. You're a very well-spoken young man. You've been an inspiration here to a lot of people and carry it forward. So for your next, are you planning on writing a book or doing a podcast or something of that nature?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, maybe this was like the feedback that I was awaiting to get some sort of resonance as to what direction to move towards. Definitely not opposed to writing a book. I hope I wouldn't just plug something into Chat GPT and ask it to write it. No, but it is something that I feel that I think that it would be meaningful, and maybe not so much I think it would be meaningful for myself, but I think just putting it in the hands and having someone encounter that message would also hopefully be inspirational. So it is something I am considering.
Did all 40 people finish that race with you 2 years ago?
Yeah, in the 3,100. So there was 10 of us that ran, and 8 of us actually finished. The 2 runners that didn't finish had previously finished in other years, but the year that I competed, they finished. It's still staggering, 2,800 miles, but they just came short of the average daily mileage. But it was something beautiful because they were of course fixated and motivated on getting the minimum mileage, but it didn't deter their spirit or happiness. They were always so happy and joyful, even though they knew that they weren't going to hit the end mileage goal.
Alex, what's your daily routine for keeping in shape?
Oh, that's a great question. Wake up, I meditate, drink a big thing of water. Work remotely, so I pretty much go to work on the computer for that period of time. Usually I like to get up every 25 minutes. I tend to find myself experiencing like a surge of energy if I don't, so I have to kind of expel that. But traditionally, right after work, right around 5 o'clock, I'll go out for my training run or training walk, whatever it may be. And, I'm not really typically a high mileage person, so I probably dedicate maybe an hour and a half to a specific distance and a specific pace. I'm in Lakewood right now, so I love going to Edgewater and checking out Lake Erie. It's been awesome to watch it. Like, it was 95% iced over, and I was standing on Lake Erie like 3 weeks ago. And then yesterday it's 70 degrees, and today it's raining. Come on, guys. But in any weather, I love to experience nature. I'm definitely an outdoors person.
Back here.
You say you do work, and if you don't want to, you don't have to, but what do you work at?
Yeah, I definitely have to work. I wish I didn't have to work. No, I actually have been employed at a organization called Rise Point. And Rise Point partners with smaller Tier 2 universities to enlist students into online programs. So I'm not sure if you've been aware of any of those like YouTube commercials, or they serve them in other places, like go back to school for your MBA online. I work as a data analyst for one of those organizations, so I'm basically helping create insights based off the data that flows through our websites, make sense of it, and connecting it to reporting. I know that might sound a little boring, but I love it. And it's funny because I always told my mom, I never want to crunch numbers. That sounds so boring. And here I am at crunching terabytes of data every single day and loving it. So once again, I thought that was funny.
Alex, do you have a special kind of diet you're on every day?
I've gone through different diets in my life. I tried being a vegan for a little bit, vegetarian for maybe like a year, high fat diet for like 3 years. Right now I'm kind of in a state where it's just like I'm allowing my body to kind of dictate what to eat. Like last night, I don't know if it was the best dictating of what to eat. I was eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I try to throw some salad and some healthy vegetarian meals in there as much as I can. But yeah, really I try to focus on clean eating, lots of just like veggies, lots of water, and try to stay away from processed food. Even though, if you ask my fiance, we still like to keep our snack pantry pretty full.
One more.
What's the difference between a normal walk and a training walk?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, I love that question. I think it's a state of consciousness. I think there's a special awareness that goes into each training opportunity. I think back when I think to the initial seconds and the moments when I open the door and I start that walk. That immediately I try to become immediately aware of something much deeper than just my thoughts. It's not always easy because I'm coming out of work usually and I'm thinking about the workday, but I'm trying to focus in on the silence and really appreciate being in the body. Whereas I think when I'm not doing a training run or walk, I feel like it's much more presence of leisure, and maybe I'm kind of like actively working to kind of troubleshoot things, and maybe I'm not specifically in the body as much as I am when I'm starting a training run. But as I'm sharing this with you, I'm feeling like the two have to be merged into one. Like if there is like a separation between training consciousness and like everyday life, what type of benefit could I get if I actually like merge those two? Because really it's just about being present. as much as I can. So I'm actually gonna take that back. It's a great question. It's really making me think. Thank you for that one.
Thank you.